It is what it is.
I'm going to call this meeting to order for the Polk County Board of Commissioners for Tuesday, January 9th. All commissioners are present. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're meeting today, looking for comments for items that are not on this agenda. I'll start. Interesting round of conversations yesterday at AOC Legislative Committee. Obviously, lots of interesting things happening from my point of view at legislative steering committees. I, as usual, have weighed in on several different things. And so there are clearly, as we all three as commissioners know, items that we need to pay very careful attention to as we enter into the portal of the 35-day cleanup session, not regular session of the legislature. Continue to remind all of us in AOC conversations that as we talk about taxation issues, for example, that these items do not belong in a short session because we need to have opportunity for public debate. I'm showboating a little bit here, guys, sorry. But I'm doing this for the benefit of the public. Pleading with them, please pay attention, contact your representatives, tell them to stop this nonsense with regard to putting things into this session that completely block the public from being able to participate. A 35-day session is a black hole for legislation, especially on taxation issues, and we have a number of them coming forward apparently. Sadly, again, my editorial is that they're all in legislative concept for the most part. We don't know the details of them. We can't really weigh in effectively today, less than a month out. And there are, I think, going to be a lot of challenges with them. So there's going to likely be some taxation plans or models that get implemented that will, as a public, never have a chance to really weigh in on. We're not going to have an opportunity as a board to discuss a lot of these things and figure out where the impacts are or how we mitigate the impacts to this county. And I wanted to take a minute today in the comment section for us to at least deliberate over things that we see are potential warnings for Polk County. And again, the taxation issues for me are big ones because first of all, they're very problematic for our taxpayers. You know, we have a pretty stable system working in Polk County. I'm very happy and proud that we have a very comfortable standard of government here and that we don't have a lot of crazy little taxes that we're dinging people with, and try hard not to make sure that doesn't happen. But every one of these things, especially when it's a property tax potential, as the several wildfire bills or legislative concepts are right now, they're a reach from the state government into our property taxation system. And it is a Pandora's box from my point of view. And it deserves lots of public scrutiny. And that is not what's going to happen in this 35-day session. So I got my bitch on the record. So thoughts?
Well, I think we could prepare perhaps a letter from this board on that issue, the wildfire issue. And I also am concerned about that because really that I think the income tax revenue should be coming to local governments. Property tax should not be going to the state because there are major challenges with revenue with local governments. So I'd be open. And I think we know enough about that concept to write something.
And keep in mind, there are three.
Okay.
On wildfire funding.
Yeah.
So one is a tax lot taxing plan. The Senator Golden plan is a harvest tax increase, substantial harvest tax increase. Again, as Commissioner Freeman said yesterday in the meeting, so you continue to force our harvest yield going down and then raise the tax on what's left. This is not a successful sustainable plan. But it also, that particular plan, Senator Golden's plan, requires or is planned to be implemented through a citizen initiative. So that's not going to happen in the short session. It just will get, if it gets any traction, we'll get authorization for a legislative directive to an initiative. third one, I've forgotten exactly what it is. They're also vague.
Mhm.
So Steiner's plan with the $10 per tax lot thing is the only one that really has any substance to it at this point.
Yeah.
What really concerned me is we allow this $10 per tax lot tax to get integrated and put in place. And then they can raise that at any time without any public input. That's just giving them an open wallet or purse to pull it out whenever they want. And that's completely wrong as well. That's what really cares. $10 is just the start.
It is just the start because I've seen it with the clerks and recording fees. They first did it with the Public Land Corner Preservation Fund of $10. But then every entity within state government found a way to attach something else to recording, land related in that. And now you probably have 7 or 8 different funding mechanisms within just recording a land document. So once you start the property tax thing with $10 for fire, they'll find ways to attach other things to it and it'll be never ending.
The upside for that one is it requires, I mean, I don't know that it's a stopper or a killer, but it requires 3/5 majority of both chambers to pass. So there is some hope that the public process, if folks engage with their representatives and senators, will stop it or slow it down. But that's my issue. Is like, I'm not arguing whether or not we need a different revenue model for firefighting. I have lots of ideas on that, and those of us who are involved in forest policy have been harping on that a lot, because we did have a function at one point that said we're going to take a certain amount of money from harvest tax and put it into the Forest Development Fund at Department of Forestry that helps pay for firefighting. That was successful. It worked until we started reducing harvests and keeping that from happening. And so now not enough harvest. Forest Development Fund is going bankrupt. They don't have the money. They don't have it in the general treasury. Where are we going to get the money from to continue to pay BLM or to pay for BLM firefighting, for example, assistance to U.S. Forest Service, and then state fire. So that's just one of many. Just doing this to make certain that people understand there are a lot of things happening in this legislative session that should not at all be happening. I've tried to make sure that our Association of Oregon Counties hears that and pushes back. And, you know, some of these things that we're dealing with, I mean, they've just become more powerful in a 35-day session. They've become the norm. We have legislators out there saying, well, I'll just wait and do this in the 35-day session because I won't have to go through all the committee scrutiny. I won't have to go through all the hearings process. You can't, there's no way to schedule those. And that's governance without representation of your people. So that's my plea. Any other observations from yesterday that merit sharing on the record?
A couple that would have impacts to our general fund. One sort of in the positive that I wouldn't mind supporting is the $16 million ask for community corrections, gap funding for the remainder of this biennium. And that's something that they're going to distribute a one sheet and have asked counties to put their logos on that. So perhaps we could look at that next week. But another one that there was quite a bit of discussion. We didn't get to a point in the discussion that I wanted to get, but the public safety stabilization, workforce stabilization ask. As you recall, DDAs are now on police and fire, PERS, and one ask is to add the electeds. That would affect, there'd be a minor impact on our general fund, but the other is to reduce the retirement age for police officers to 55, I believe, without that 25-year service requirement.
Isn't it 53 and 20?
Could be.
I think 53.
Okay.
25 years.
25 is the minimum, but 53, I think, was the age.
It used to be 50. I think they raised it. I think you have to be either 53 or 55, but you have to have 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
If you go without the 25 years, I think it's 58.
And this one irks me because obviously we want to support workforce retention and recruitment for law enforcement, given the challenges there, but putting it all on us and through the PERS system is a little bit problematic. So I would love to support it with an amendment to require state property taxes, or I'm sorry, income taxes to make up the difference for employer contributions. So those would be increased. That's a far-fetched ask, I think, but and I don't know how if this has legs in the legislature, but I mean that'd be a pretty major impact to cities and counties.
I support that early age retirement for the police officers. As you get older, taking on a guy strung out on drugs and the physical aspects of that job, you're just asking yourself for liability, workers' comp claims. I mean, if they're physically getting to the age, they're getting pretty well beat up. And you just can't handle that at that time. And there's no, we were discussing after the meeting, are there jobs we can roll senior officers into? There's not really a job. Most of them don't want to take on a deputy position or a detective position or something that's less stressful, less physical. So, and trying to find people to be a police officer today, one of the biggest challenges that I had yesterday's meeting was reinstating all of the tools that we took away from the officers so they can do their job effectively is not even being discussed right now at the Capitol building. They want to do everything else in the form of Measure 110, but that's an area they don't want to address, and that's where we have the biggest need. You can't fix one and not the other and think it'll resolve an issue. And even giving the hammer to the judge to force people into rehab and accept the services available, it's not being discussed. And that's as critical as getting rid of drugs inside or out in public spaces, limiting age groups. So a 15-year-old can't be walking around with heroin anymore or being legal. I mean, there's some serious impacts that we have to fix on this Measure 110. And you can't do one without doing the others. So I hope somehow we can get some attention on that as well.
So I appreciate, I wasn't in your steering committee meeting. Thank God I didn't have to do that. But just judging from what happened in the legislative committee presentation, there was a lot of challenges there in joint committee, apparently, on this issue.
Not as much on the Measure 110.
No, I'm talking about the issue you brought up. I'm not touching that one.
The PERS issue was tough because there really are revenue challenges with those, especially Clatsop and Tillamook with the major reduction in timber revenue, which pays for law enforcement. But it puts us in a real bind because this is a community need. But we're given sort of one option to rectify some of those compensation deficits in the law enforcement workforce. So
well, I think that's where most of us recognize this is a state employee we're talking about here, specific to the DA.
Yeah, right.
I mean, again, we've mixed something in here that muddied the water. So that's where my challenge is. That we have an elected employee of the state that we're arguing about here, giving a benefit. They're already eligible for PERS, but we're giving them an additional benefit in PERS that others, the rest of us would say, well, wait a second. Is that person really, I know RDA would argue with me right now, I apologize, but that, they have the option every 4 years of looking for something else. And not that I'm suggesting that, but pretending that adding this additional police and fire PERS benefit is going to keep them on the job for a full career is challenging for me. And I don't think that the financial impacts of this legislative concept are all that great, but again, it's more door opening for something else. And again, as I shared with my bride at home over this issue, we've talked about it. It frustrated me a great deal last year when I found out meat cutters, USDA licensed or certified meat cutters were in police and fire PERS. Oh yeah.
Because you do with knives and saws?
I don't know why. I don't have any idea. I just know they are. And so that was an example that was laid out last year about how could we not put ADAs in there and allow USDA certified meat cutters to be in the police and fire PERS. And it's a great argument. I have no idea how they get there. So that's part of my issue again, to the $10 tax issue and additional things. And next it'll be ODOT and tolling. So sorry, I did that just for your benefit, Mr. Hanson. So anyway, I just wanted to open this opportunity for us to comment on the things that we're experiencing as commissioners. All three of us were actively involved yesterday in AOC, Association of Oregon Counties functions. And we have a short agenda. I just want to make certain that we had the opportunity to share that with the public, that we are there, we're engaging, we're trying, you know, we might all have different ideas about what that looks like, but we're engaging in it.
So the PERS issue on police, law enforcement, they wanted to just have it a flat 25.
I think that will remain at 25.53, but they want to reduce the
full
retirement
age.
to 55, from 60 to 55.
So,
And that, yeah,
okay.
You didn't have 25, but you were
Right.
at the right age, you could still pull the benefit.
that's right.
So what that really is going to do is there aren't that many on the line at that age. They're usually in management of some kind. They're either sergeants or above. And what you're gonna see is as soon as they hit that age, they're gonna retire, rehire
Oh, yeah.
because of the new PERS rule. You aren't gonna change anything. They're just gonna get to double dip
Mhm.
for a lot longer.
Contract. Yeah.
You won't have any movement up. We're seeing it at our level. Every organization's seeing it at their level because it is hard to find qualified law enforcement. So losing them to retirement is tough. So the rehire issue, you're not going to change out your workforce. You're just going to give them the opportunity to double dip quicker and prevent.
And they're at the highest end of your pace, your salary schedule.
Oh, yeah, and some fall under unions, others don't, and it's a mess. And it's tough to figure out how you compensate them and all those things that I've been dealing with. But that's fine, me dealing with it, but it's not gonna achieve, I think, what, if you're a 24-year-old, you don't look at age 55 or whatever that age they want to be the retirement age. You just look at the money now. So I didn't look at PERS when I first started here. I mean, it becomes more valuable the older you get, but it's not going to achieve what they want,
In terms of retention and recruitment. Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah, one other, my co-chair, Dave Hensley, you know, in conversations preparing for the agenda, had a really compelling case that, you know, the life expectancy of officers is at least 10 years less than the average.
59 years of age.
So shouldn't they be able to draw from retirement earlier if they're,
So the way it's written right now, they can retire with 25 years at 53.
Right.
But anything beyond that is a lesser retirement until they're 60, and then it doesn't matter how many years they've served.
and that
But-
reduce it from 60 to 55? That's
Right.
what they're proposing.
Yeah.
Under the new PERS, retire, rehire, you have to be able to be fully retired, eligible retired. So if
Gotcha.
they went out at 58 and they didn't have their 25 year, they have to wait 6 months for reemployment
Gotcha.
in the PERS system. So the only way to essentially get there is to have that 25 years in, and then they can retire, rehire.
And the third piece of that concept was to create a separate category, like a hazardous category for 911 operators and state hospital workers. So, and they're putting all the package into one. You got AFSCME, you've got DAs, you got lots of advocates.
What has happened is police and fire used to be very narrow and very difficult to achieve. Commissioner Pope mentioned a certain job that gets it. There are a lot of those jobs that have now been added to that. So now your true police and fire people feel slighted. They used, I mean, their job was special in their minds, and so now you have all these others that are getting it. So they're gonna be looking for something special again. And it's just, you gotta stop it somewhere. PERS is not the healthiest retirement system. It's much better than a lot of states. I think we're in the top 10 of funded But it's still a system that is broken and they continue to kick the can down the road, so you will never dig yourself out of it unless you get amazing stock returns. But as soon as you're eventually gonna have a bad year, you're back in it again. It's,
Police and fire.
PERS is not the answer to solve your,
Exactly.
your retention and hiring, in my opinion.
But where would the money come from if you were to say, make adjustments to salary and other benefits? I mean, that would fall in local governments and we're so limited
Yeah, I
there.
mean, there is funding issues statewide. Cities have, I think, are in much worse shape than counties.
Yep.
Just because they can't deal with their infrastructure needs and all that under the current Measure 4750 type thing. I'm not including Measure 5 because I think Measure 5 is here to stay no matter what in property tax. But the modification of Measure 47 and 50 is probably going to be a topic in the long session a year from now. And we're getting complicated for the general public to understand the whole property tax system, but there is going to be, I think, some kind of way for you to modify your permanent rate. That's the only answer to dig themselves out. Or they have to do something, again, constitutional, like the kicker. I mean, the kicker, the amount of money that's coming back to the taxpayer this year will be nice for everyone. Everyone's going to love it, but there are issues that could be addressed. They could eliminate PERS issues a lot with that kicker. They could address infrastructure if you trust those in charge of that money to do it correctly, which is a whole longer session, in my opinion, to discuss, but there has to be some kind of change, in my opinion, for Oregon truly to survive. PERS cripples a lot of entities. The current property tax system cripples a lot of entities. But you know, unfortunately, and again, this is my opinion, if it isn't good for Portland or Metro, it doesn't happen statewide. So that's just my opinion.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad I opened that robust discussion.
We could go on.
I'm gonna move to the next item. Looking for approval of minutes of December 26th.
Also move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, pass unanimously. Reclassification of an employee, Mr. Hawkins.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I am here to request a reclassification of one of our health services admin specialist one. Yes, that's a lot to say. But this is specifically for Crystal Rodriguez. The health services has requested that she be reclassified to the health services admin specialist 2 position. She's taken on some significantly higher duties that fall within the job specification of the higher level position. She was in an entry level position, done a very good job, gave her more duties. So now we're requesting that she be reclassified. If approved, we would make this effective January 1st, and it would be an approximate budget increase for a 12-month period of $3,600 to include PERS contributions.
Good.
Good.
All right, thank you.
Non-listed items.
Just for your information, I contacted Mr. Whitaker, Public Works Director, this morning to find out if we had any significant issues with the high winds last night or anything. He said nothing had come up on their radar. They had minor limbs falling in that and for road debris in that, but no major trees down or anything that were obstructing the ability to pass on roads and that. So.
Where did this high wind go? I mean, I was all ready for 40-mile-an-hour winds. Poof, there's just a little puff. Wasn't anything, so.
It occurred at my house multiple times. Yeah. So I think it was,
Doing really
I think it was just spotty. I mean,
Yeah, it was.
Really?
Yeah.
Anything else? I have one, if you don't. first of all, I'm always going to be concerned as we go through our weeks of planning in the future for agendas that we really work hard to try and make certain if we have things that need to be discussed or can be deliberated on that give the public an opportunity to see inside what we're doing, that we always add those to Nicole's list so that she doesn't end up with agendas that are blank. So I think it's really important that we maintain these weeks or these meetings every week. And I don't like having a regular scheduled Board of Commissioners meeting that might get canceled because it doesn't have an agenda. I know we have a lot going on and there's certainly plenty of opportunity for us to discuss individual items. And so thank you for having an item that made certain that we had an agenda. Of course, I added to that to elaborate that agenda a bit. And in the spirit of that, I just think we should probably get a quick update on projects, construction projects, building projects.
Sure. I just
Caught you off guard, so.
No, you're good. I had her add it to a Monday. I was all prepared to actually show you guys some renderings for our new
Okay, that's fine.
behavioral health building. So
I'll save that one for a Monday, but why don't you catch us up on FCO?
FCO is basically completed. They've been moving everything over. We're still working at getting the VSO, the Veteran Service Officers over there. Didn't want to shut anything down so that people didn't have access. But the building is in good shape. There's some minor things that need to be completed by the contractor. In fact, I just made some approvals yesterday morning for some things to be completed, but we're up and running as far as my end of things. I can't honestly answer you where we're at as far as some of the renters moving in and things of that nature. I don't have any of that.
We're operating there, right? Everything, I mean.
We're up and operating.
Right.
Yes. Buena Vista's done. I should do a happy dance or something, but that's done. We'll see what it looks like come springtime and what we need to do to build up some of the vegetation that will need to be out there still. There's some minor things hanging out on that. I'll give you renderings of the behavioral health building. I want to kind of give you an idea of the footprint, and they even drew, they'll have a better drawings for us, but where we're at right now is the architect is working on the drawings to get them ready so that we can go out to bid. We've come up with the final design. Everybody's in agreement on what we need with health services included. So we will be going out to bid most likely in March.
But you're saving that one from this coming Monday.
I'm well, the one after, because this one's a holiday.
Yeah.
But I'm bringing it before you so that I can give you some.
Have we
wanna
brought it before City of Dallas for their review and building permits and all that approval? And all
We're not that far yet on it. The architect will be doing that soon.
Yeah. Anything else?
On building projects and that at the AOC level, it's every 2 years, the courthouse or renovation or
Judicial facilities, court facilities. Committee meets to put together their list of projects countywide to partnership with the state of Oregon and the Oregon Judicial Department and the Chief Justice for projects for courthouse replacement, for courthouse improvements, and for planning of courthouse replacement projects. We are in the planning section of those three elements. We submitted 2 years ago and did not make the list of funded projects. We were, I think, third out of the 5 projects, and they funded the first 2. We're getting revised numbers from the architect.
I have it for you too.
Yeah, we will submit that. We have to have our submittal. It's a 1-page executive summary of what you're looking for planning purposes, and that we'll have that that's due, I think, by the 28th of January or something like that. We'll have that in either early next week. I'll let you read the executive summary, one page, that we will submit. That will go before the committee, and we rank them and put them in order of that. So we sit down, there's usually 2 or 3 meetings before it's a done process. Then that list goes to the Chief Justice, and they try to incorporate whatever they can into their budget, and then it gets eventually approved or not approved at the governor level and state level. So we're beginning that process. I think this year Lyle volunteered to be on that committee. I may be on it or not. It's usually commissioners, but historically I've always been on it, and I'm the longest serving person on it. But whether they want to give me a vote or not, I don't know. I ran it 2 years ago, so it doesn't matter. It's whatever they decide at their level, but we're in that process.
Would you like to give an update on the Crook County lawsuit?
I don't know where it is. Crook County, obviously, if you were at AOC, they had a special session on that. But in the funding process for courthouse or court replacement, they use specialized bonds for that purpose. And to utilize those bonds, you have to have ownership and control of your portion of the building, and which exempts you from the county is required to provide everything for you clause. And Crook County is the first county to have found that exception to that clause, and they're basically in negotiations with the state on paying their fair share of rent and maintenance. State really didn't like that, so now they're in the process of going to court to find out how they implement or not implement that, and that may make it more difficult to use this AOC process for courtroom facilities replacement in the future, because you're probably adding a lot of money that state doesn't believe or doesn't want to pay in the way of providing rent on the space and maintenance for the building. So if they owned half that building, they would have to deal with half a roof replacement down the line. And the bonds usually are 30-year bonds. So I think when the bonds are completely paid off, it may revert back to the old clause where you have to provide it, but until they exhaust the funding of those bonds, they would be on the hook. And
When you say they, you mean they, the state of Oregon?
Yeah. Judicial department,
Mhm.
and that impact to their budget could be very large, because they get a sweetheart deal right now as part of the great negotiation way back when in the 60s or whatever they decided is.
Where's Crook County at in the lineup of new facilities? Did they not get?
They got approved, they got funded, they got their bids in, but before they started construction, Crook
They
brought
revealed this potential.
brought this issue up, and I do not believe they have started, because they aren't going to start until this point is settled. And Crook hired a pretty big gun, Di Lorenzo, and so it'll be interesting to see the outcome of their case. Whether it actually ever goes to trial or not, don't know. There may be a negotiation that does occur and they settle at something, but I like Crook County's chances because it specifically states those things in the funding process and all that, so. And it specifically excludes or exempts them from the county having to pay for everything, so. But we'll see. They don't have to build them either, so they can avoid it. And whether it becomes retro for those that have already built is another big question. Because there probably have been 4 courthouses that have been completely built. Jefferson County's one of them. I know Multnomah has some,
At least 2.
yeah, at least 2 buildings. So,
I think the Multnomah County bill will be enough to choke them.
oh, it would crush them, yes. You're looking at, half of utilities, half custodial, maintenance, big bills. So,
Okay, anything else? Anyone? We're adjourned.